Just imagine that there's an intro video because we still don't have one. Welcome to episode 91 of the Mighty Whites podcast. As always, I'm Jack, joined by KC.
Hello.
We will be joined by Andy Watson in a bit. We're talking about the Everton game first because he is coming in from the outside. There's no point being here for this. And more importantly, he has a small child that he has to put to bed. So fuck it, straight into it because it was great. Everton 0, Leeds United 1. Rafinha was a 79th minute winner. This was great.
Yeah, I'm definitely a lot more positive since we actually got the goal. Because at times it did feel a lot like the Arsenal game, in as much as we were dominating the play, we were creating the better chances. But I think as the game wore on, there was the concern that we were going to that it was going to turn into a much more entertaining version of George Graham's Leeds, of the most entertaining 0-0s you'll ever see. But yeah, thankfully Rafinha popped up with a cheeky nutmeg and a goal.
Yeah, I did put it on a thing. It's a bit of a weird one because we were defensively a lot more susceptible than we were against Arsenal. But I think a lot of that has to do with Everton having a bit more of a go than Arsenal did. Even with 11 men, Arsenal weren't really very adventurous or anything.
I think
but like how it was only 1-0, I'm not sure.
I've said it before, and I've said it to you. XG is bollocks, mate.
Yep. We need to bin off this Bielsa football. 4-4-2, long ball. But no, we played some really, really good stuff in this game. He must have got, by the looks of it, Andy has entered the chat, so I'll be ready in a sec. This game, it wasn't just the performance and that we only got one goal. It's just that when we play like that, I started to get that little seed of doubt in my head of, are we going to find a way to fuck this up and get dragged into a relegation battle? And I watched that game and thought, no, surely we are too good for that at the minute. Now, doesn't mean anything. There's been good teams have made a mess of it and gone down before, but I just watch us and think, I don't think we're going to suddenly rush up there and be sixth or anything, but I think we'll be absolutely fine. And I'd be absolutely fine playing Bielsa football over most things, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like over the last few weeks, the fullbacks have kind of learnt from the Leicester and Palace games, and without it really affecting the way we play, I think they're playing more sensibly at the moment. I think Luke Ayling especially has probably been a little bit more conscious of when he pushes up and when not to. And, I think from that regard, we've kind of looked less susceptible on the counter-attack. Not to say that there weren't chances for Everton that way, but I was less concerned with them getting in behind and us only having two at the back. I think defensively for me, my only concern has been set pieces. I think we saw it against Palace. We've seen it again today. Not today, against Everton. And I don't know if it's an organisational issue or what it is. But that's kind of where we looked at our weakest at times.
Yeah, they did get a few chances from set pieces. Obviously, I mean, they had a few chances overall. There was the early Decore chance, which I think you can just straight up say was just Liam Cooper's fault. He just left a ball that he could have intercepted, and Tom Davies got in behind. That was a wonderful save from Meslier, who, the more I watch him, the more I think, can you just be number one until you're about 35?
Can we sign a younger version of you for just in case?
No, it's not Football Manager, mate. You don't have a 20-year-old first choice keeper and go, I think I need an 18-year-old to sit on the bench. Oh no, wait, sorry, my bad. On Football Manager, you never put a keeper on the bench.
Warnock.
You were on about the fullbacks, and the thing I found interesting about it, fullback-wise, wasn't so much the right side; it was the left side, with Dallas and Alioski kind of dovetailing in that role. Because
Stuart Dallas was everywhere again.
Yeah, well, to be honest, they both were. Because when Dallas followed in, Alioski played some bits at central midfield as well. I think it's just from the man marking. I think it's because James Rodriguez moves around so much and Dallas just stayed with him.
Yeah.
So wherever he was, Everton would want to push a player into that right wing space. Whether it was Davies pushing forward or whether Decore went out there. So you always ended up with a Leeds player in the left back spot, even if it wasn't the quote unquote left back.
Yeah.
But I thought Alioski was really good actually, and because of that, I've got it here as a question that I've written down. But does Rodrigo get back in this side for the next game?
I mean, for me, yes, because I think we still lacked that cutting edge up front. There wasn't. I know Bamford had a couple of chances, but I still think we just missed that little extra up front. That little bit extra creativity. I was very surprised that Rodrigo wasn't on by the hour mark, and even more surprised that he wasn't on after 70 minutes or any amount of minutes after that, to be honest. But yeah, for me, I still think he's got to play.
Yeah, to be honest, I agree. I expected him to be back in, and I expected him to be on in the hour mark as well. And I was, to be honest, just on the verge of saying, like I put on Twitter, I can't believe that we haven't made this change yet. But now, the more I think about it, the more I think, nah, there's no way he starts against Chelsea.
I don't think he starts, but it's very much one of those again where, and I can't imagine there was too many Leeds fans anywhere who weren't calling for Rodrigo to be on after an hour with the amount of chances we'd had and not taken. So, but again, it is very much the in Bielsa we trust. He's not. I don't even mean that in just a blind faith sort of way. We won. The man got the tactics absolutely spot on. Alioski, like you said, had a very good game. We did. I thought defensively, outside of a couple of set pieces and outside of being troubled by genuinely quality players, I don't think the defence put much of a foot wrong for most of the night. I thought it was two good attacking teams against each other, and that's when you've got players like Calvert-Lewin in the form he's in, and Rodriguez, who is on his day, an absolutely fantastic player. They are going to cause you problems, and I don't think that's down to defensive errors. I think that's to Everton's quality. Yeah,
they are really good. I thought we did really well against Calvert-Lewin. When a long ball went to him, he still looked too strong for Cock and Cooper, but for that sort of thing, he's going to trouble any centre-back, really. He's really good at it. But overall, I thought we kept him really quiet. I thought they missed Luca Dean at left-back.
Because you called that one. You called that one spot on as well.
Did I?
Well, just in terms of one, how much they'd missed Digne, but you also called it in terms of the team selection, moving Iwobi across and bringing. Was it Davies that came in?
I'm surprised. I don't think I'll have said Davies. I might have said John Joe Kenny. I don't think I'll have said that, because I remember being surprised that Tom Davies playing wing back. But I knew that they'd play Iwobi because he did play well there against Fulham. But I think that they really did miss Digne, and the lack of his quality crosses, I think, really affected Calvert-Lewin. We could get into the disallowed goals, but there was two for them, one for us, and they were all correct. So there's not really much to say about them. The only other things with the game is, first of all, Leeds being so much better defensively. We've said that the centre-backs were good, but is the difference just having Calvin Phillips back?
Yeah. I don't want to be dropping names on here, but I was on LUTV earlier today with Ben Parker, and that was the question he asked as how much of a difference.
Ben Parker, massive name.
But that was one of the questions. Say was just how much better do we look with Calvin Phillips back? And I said before about the Leicester and the Crystal Palace games. As much as I like Pascal Struijk, and as much as he's come on as a player over the last 6-7 months or whatever it is, he is not a Calvin Phillips replacement. I'm of the opinion that Calvin Phillips is probably, in the top 2 players in that role in the division. I think he's genuinely that good. So yeah, he will be. He will be missed.
He will be missed. You made it sound like he's died. And the other thing is, and the way I described it on Twitter worked. This was a question: how good is Rafinha? Now, I put on Twitter, the only player better in world football than Rafinha is Rafinha on Football Manager. It was something daft like 25 goals, 20 assists in the first season. As Leeds rocketed to second place, I'm basically Marcelo Bielsa. But I have not been this excited about a player at Leeds since I was a child, I don't think. I think he has everything. The one thing I wasn't sure about was his aerial ability, and that leaping like a salmon to force a great save out of Pickford brought that in as well.
To be honest, I feel like it's a Football Manager scouting report on any player other than central midfielders when it says his heading ability leaves a lot to be desired, and you just look at it going, I don't give a shit. He's not the sort of player I really need to care about his aerial ability. It's a bonus. But
as you've mentioned it, seeing as you're talking about scout reports, I may as well press this button.
Absolutely seamless, yeah.
Welcome to the podcast, Andy Watson.
Yeah, hi Jack. Okay, see how we doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks, mate. How are you?
Really good. Yeah, really good.
It's good to have you. So straight into it. How good is Rafinha?
Well, he's exceptional, isn't he? And you say about his being the most exciting sign that you can think of for a long time, and I probably agree with that for Leeds. To be honest, he looks just exceptional. He's slotted in. You know how difficult it is to slot into Bielsa teams as well. Like, he doesn't do it just for anybody, and for him to come in and make such an impact early doors can be nothing but good for Leeds United, I think.
Yeah, there's very few players that have made it into the starting lineup and looked settled that quickly with Bielsa.
Yeah,
I'd say Barry Douglas, when he first joined, who you will be very aware of as a Blackburn fan, he was one of the few. When he signed, he went straight into the team. And although there were problems with Douglas, it wasn't the way he fit into the team. It was basically just a lack of pace. Outside of that, he really did fit in well with the system.
Yeah. But Rafinha's just so dangerous, isn't he? He's dangerous from anywhere from 30 yards out. The way that he's forming those shots just look absolutely quality. And like you say, he's even threatening in the air now. So what is there that he can't do? I've seen your Football Manager screenshot as well, where he absolutely dominated. So the guys Miles Jacobson and the boys obviously rate him very highly as well. And obviously you brought me on here talking about 5 yards and the transfer rules that are going to be coming in, but he's not on the 5 yards platform yet, but he has been requested by at least a couple of people, probably Leeds fans, and he will be being put on there when we get round to just analysing how magnificent he is. So you can't expect him to go on there cheaply, unfortunately, Leeds fans.
Yeah, he will be he will be one that I'll be looking at for certain. We'll get into the 5 yard stuff properly in a bit. Was there really anything else from the game that you took from it, Casey?
Like you say, Rafinha was so exciting again. I think his run in about the second minute when he just accelerated away from everybody was great. But no, like you say, it's so nice to. I think the only thing you found funny was it around the 70th minute when we were told that apparently Leeds were tiring, which I just found laughable.
Is that not just what people assume is going to happen just because of Bielsa's style, that they expect his teams to tire? Surely that's just a statement that keeps coming up over and over again. I've not seen it from Leeds.
I feel stuff like that it's those people that didn't watch Leeds in the last 2 seasons under Bielsa and have heard a lot of things and seen clips. And I think at times you can tell the pundits that have watched us on a fairly consistent basis and those that have kind of gone off highlight reels and hearsay about the quote unquote Bielsa burnout.
Well, yeah. I was gonna be the bigger man and not bring it up, but as you brought up pundits, Graham Souness. Calvin Phillips will only be a top defensive midfielder if he starts adding more goals to his game. I found it laughable. I was like, not only do you get paid for your opinion, you've been getting paid for it for a long time. And I couldn't believe what I was hearing from him, to be honest.
Yeah,
It's in the job title, though, isn't it? A defensive midfielder. I don't know what more you want from that title. It very much indicates his role in the team.
All it taught me is that Graham Souness think Claude Makelele was a load of shite.
He does chip in with the odd goal as well, doesn't he? Colin Phillips. He's done it a couple of times. I know he's not prolific.
He got 2 last season. He used to score more when he played further forward before Bielsa showed us his calling.
Before he really knew what sort of a midfielder he was, he didn't do a whole lot in games, but was prone to scoring an absolute screamer every now and again. And then Bielsa taught him how to play football properly, cut out that silly stuff of scoring goals and just focus on the defensive work. And I'm okay with that.
I feel like I'm going to stray into dangerous territory here. Having only listened to the first 10 minutes. Have you still got that stat of the XG, Jack? That you can just
I've got it here.
The bottom. And I believe, Casey, you're not a massive fan of XG now?
It's not that I'm not a fan. I kind of make fun of it a little bit, especially with Leeds' stats over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
He basically thinks it's witchcraft.
No, I fully know how it's formed and the fact it does. I think it's up there with when people bang on about a team's possession. I think as long as it's put into the context of the game properly, then it is an effective stat. I think just on its own basis, I don't think you can solely rely on it. But
I mean, it's like, for instance, I'll say it out loud for the audio people. Everton 1.49, Leeds 3.38. This one is one of the days where it's a better measure than some, because obviously sometimes you'll get a game where it's 1-0 after 5 minutes and the team just sits back, and you can end up with like 1.5 XG without ever looking like scoring. I always think of the obviously 10-man Everton, where we got 10-man Everton. That's because I read the word Everton. 10-man Wigan, where we had our XG for that game was 4 point something, and I don't think we ever once looked like scoring. It's just that Everton camped on the edge of the box and we had 40 odd bad shots.
I think we just need to think of it as not necessarily even expected goals. You got to think of it as these are the quality of chances that you're creating over the course of time. So, Leeds' XG numbers, you can say you're underperforming them, whatever. Obviously, you won enough games to go up comfortably last season, winning the title. And if you're creating that many chances in a game in the Premier League, and you're going to keep doing that because of the type of side that you are, then you're going to score a lot of goals, which means you're going to win a lot of games. Well, not lose a lot of games, I guess, is a better way of putting it. And if you're starting to get a little bit tighter defensively, which is starting to, well, maybe the last game was good, but the previous games weren't.
Well, that was one of the weird things. We conceded a lower XG against Palace, losing 4-1, than we did against Everton.
Yeah, and sometimes that'll happen. That's why XG over one game is a lot of shite a lot of times. But I think, seeing it the way that since Bielsa started, it started straight away for him. The XG just looked sensational. The XG ratio, especially taking into account how little chances you were actually conceding and how many you were creating, just marked you out as an amazing team from the second it came in. I remember that first game. It was just, who was it against? Someone who was expected to do the title. The
first Bielsa game was the 3-1 win at home against Stoke, who'd just come down.
Exactly.
At the time were the tips to go up.
Yeah, exactly. And, even from that very moment, that just kind of set the tone. So you're definitely kind of back where you belong now. And I think you mentioned earlier about going up to 6th. I mean, why not? Like, if you keep creating chances and scoring goals, and your players get used to the Premier League, then you've got more chance of finishing 6th than being relegated, in my opinion.
Do you think stats like XG and chances created, things like that, are kind of the best way I can think to put it is that they're almost more Moneyball stats now that kind of are indicators that either directors of football or managers will look at for especially attacking players when they're looking to as a better informant of goals that can be reliably scored by a player as opposed to just goals and assists now.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's now a mixture of the two. You don't just look at the goals anymore. You got to look at the XG and see where that kind of tallies up alongside the goals. And also for XA is obviously expected assists, or not just another word for like expected chances created. So I think, obviously, let's just take Bamford as an example, since we're on Leeds. His XG last season was incredibly high compared to the number of goals that he scored. But that's kind of almost right itself in the Premier League. Over the course of time, Bamford will score a lot of goals for Leeds, but so will quite a lot of players who play up front for Leeds, because of the quality of chances that your team, that the tactic, that the system that Bielsa can put in, and the quality of players that you've got can provide for that front player. Now, it's got to have someone with the movement of Bamford and the intelligence of Bamford to be able to get himself into the right position. And then it's down to luck, a few other different things. But no one could look at the way that Bamford started this season and go, well, we didn't expect that completely, because of the numbers that he was putting up. So it's always going to right itself a little bit. And to answer your question more directly, I'm pretty certain that all recruitment departments now take into account their XG just as much, or if not more, than the goals that they actually score.
Well, the useful thing with the XG stat, especially when you're looking at strikers, it's not just showing. It'll show for some players, as well as like how many chances to get movement, stuff like that. You'll also get to see, that's the best way to spot a proper elite finisher.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that it might just be someone running hot, but if someone like 2 seasons, 3 seasons in a row is miles above their XG, if you can get that player in a team that creates a lot of chances, even if they have an off season, they're going to get plenty.
Yeah. I think you were seeing that with the elite players, that they're constantly running above their XG, and the reason for that is that they're just better at finding the net. Like, that's just what they are able to do, and that's why they cost the big bucks as well.
Yeah, I was trying to very quickly in the background get up what Patrick Bamford's price is on 5 yards.
Did I not answer your question fully enough there? That giving you enough time to?
No, it's just
sneakily.
I am still getting to grips with the 5 yards website. You see.
Oh right, okay.
Because I was going to transition into it, but because I know Patrick Bamford is one of the players who is on it.
He is indeed, yeah.
And he is priced at £18 million, which is not particularly high, I wouldn't say, based on what I've had a quick look at so far.
Yeah, so you've got, I think, 7 players on their Leeds at the moment. So we've got Bamford, like I say. The most expensive person to buy on the platform is Ilan Melier at 29 mil. You got Calvin Phillips on there at 18, and they kind of all group then. Phillips, Bamford, Poveda, Harrison, Rodrigo, all 17 or 18 mil, and then Robin Koch is on there as well at 14 million. So, there's 7 Leeds players at the moment, but there's been a lot more requested. Shall I launch into the whole?
Yeah, definitely launch into your spiel. You of course will have the perfect understanding of how it works. I have signed up. I've had a little go myself to get started today, because to transfer windows are they Tuesday and Friday or Tuesday and Thursday? I can't remember.
Tuesday and Friday.
Tuesday and Friday. So I've had my first little go at it today, but it really does look like an interesting proposition. I'm quite looking forward to getting into it.
Yeah, I think kind of the genesis of the idea, it wasn't my idea. I've just kind of been brought on board for the last few months or so to look at the scouting side of things. But the initial brainchild, I think, came from the idea that a lot of people like Football Index and like fantasy football, so more of a long-term sort of investment, if you like to call it that, in Football Index, or free play also in fantasy football. And to kind of take the idea of those things, but root it in the real world. So the values that you see on the 5 Yards website are all, calculated by the amount of performance pay that a player will accrue for the course of their career. So taking the example of Patrick Bamford, you earn performance pay if you start in a game that your team wins, if you score a goal, or if you make an assist. So those are the 3 ways that you can get performance pay. And you only get that if you play in the Premier League, Serie A, La Liga, Bundesliga, Liga, or the Championship. Now, the amount of money that you get for each one of those, depends on the quality of the league that you play in. So the Premier League is classed as the highest level until you get into Europe, and then the Champions League is above that. So what we kind of take into account in terms of pricing players is how many times over the course of the rest of their career are they going to be in a team that wins? Are they going to score a goal or make an assist? So that 18 million that you're talking about, Patrick Bamford, that's what we've kind of calculated or worked out by looking at the quality of Bamford, the quality of the team that he currently plays for, and then kind of mapping out the rest of his career. And what is he, 27 now? 26, 27?
I want to say 27, but I'm not actually 100% sure.
So he's probably got another, 5-6 years at the very top. Then maybe he might drop maybe down into the Championship again. Who knows? But that's kind of the fun of it. So the question is, if you're going to put some money in Bamford, if you're going to buy Bamford for your squad on the 5 yards platform, do you think that 18 million is a fair representation of the performance pay he's going to get for the rest of his career? It's £130,000 that you get per win, per goal, and per assist. So it becomes quite mathematical in a way. If you're going to invest in him, it's not just, are you going to? Do you think he's worth 18 million? You have to start thinking about, well, how many years has he got left at Leeds? Are Leeds going to be successful? Is he going to be starting games regularly? So there's quite a lot to go into it, really. And that's what we do on the scouting side, is try and come up with the right numbers to generate this value. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, and just for people at home, obviously he's saying 18 million. To buy Patrick Bamford, you don't need 18 million in your squad.
If you wanted to buy 100, it's £10 equals $1 million. So if you wanted to, you can probably work the maths out yourself there. If you wanted to buy 100% of Patrick Bamford, then it would cost you
180.
180.
Yeah.
180 pounds.
Thank you for not leaving that to me.
I knew to jump in, mate.
Jack would jump in because I know, he's got a good mind for figures. But,
for what it's worth, the reason that me and Andy know each other is we used to work together in the bookmaking sector. So they don't pay me, so I don't say the name.
Both publishers. Nice.
But yeah,
I should say as well,
it made it appeal to me quite a lot because
you don't have to buy 100% of the player either. You can buy 1% of the player, so you don't have to put all your money, where your mouth is. There is a limit on to how much we allow people to put into the platform as well. We're not in it to try and fleece people. We're trying to give people some entertainment. Instead of putting £10 on a dog, the race is over in 40 seconds and you've lost £10, then this is £10 that you can keep seeing returns on, because that performance pay. So when Bamford scores at the weekend, or whoever else, Rodrigo scores at the weekend, and he earns that performance pay, that comes back into your account. So you're recouping your returns as it goes, if you know what I mean. So say you put in £10, then when Rodrigo scores or Bamford scores or whoever scores, that performance pay comes straight back into your account, and if that then builds up to over what you put in, then you're making profit and you're in the money. But it's a long-term sort of thing.
That was the thing that I liked about it, the way that you're not just reliant on the market going up or something. It's not just, you buy Bamford at 18 million, he's now gone up to 20, so you can sell him. It was the performance pay part of it I thought was really interesting.
Which you can also do. I mean, obviously, players do improve through the career. We might have to rejudge their actual ability, which we've had to do with Meslier this season. So he started this season. We weren't sure how he was going to adapt to the Premier League, but clearly he's adapting very well. And
he is just the best goalkeeper in the world. And I don't think any of us saw that coming. So
exactly. So, and we didn't see it coming either. So, thankfully we only launched publicly last week. If it had been launched right at the start of the season, we had Meslier priced a lot lower because we didn't know. So Diego Jota is another example, who, when he started the season at Wolves, he was rated a certain way because nobody knew that he was going to move to Liverpool, which automatically gets him Champions League money. It gets him obviously better chance of winning football matches, and obviously he's hit the ground running and scoring goals. So his rating and then therefore his price is going up quite a lot at the moment.
Off the top of your head, have you a rough idea what the difference is? Because he's 60 something now, I think, isn't he, Jota? I think I remember looking at him earlier.
He started the season at 35 million.
35. So if you can time something, so quite a good time to be going in is if you one of my first big, and I say big pick, it's not at all big, it's like, 25 quid or whatever.
Yeah.
But my first one is based on, I think that next season, whether the club he's at goes up or not, I think he'll go up to the Premier League, and that's why I bought him.
You can say,
I can tell who it is, but David Brooks.
Right.
Because I think he's a great player. I think if he wouldn't have had to miss a year for injury, he'd already be somewhere way up there. So he was the first one I went in for. But I think from everything I've seen so far, I'm thinking that that's going to be the best thing to look at. Spot someone who's good. Obviously, I mean, it's scouting. You're spotting someone who's good low to go up. It's the same as it would be in real life. But I think that's the first thing that I'm trying to find is who do I think will be a massive club in 3 years?
Yeah, in essence, it's a scouting game. That's the whole point behind it. Like we were still toying with kind of that kind of slogan, like the world's original scouting game. Like if you can spot someone that's going to come through and be the next superstar, and you get them early when nobody else knows about it, including us, especially us, then you're going to be quids in. If Erling Haaland, for instance, he's the second highest on the platform in terms of value. If this game had been around 2 years ago, just before he signed for Dortmund, and you knew how good he was going to be, then it's a bit like Football Index in that way, because that's the whole idea. Can we get in early and find someone and get the value out of them? And hopefully, if you get in before us, and if you know it before us, then that's the challenge. And I'd like to say as well, if anybody is interested, you can just play for free as well. You can go on the platform, you can write scout reports, you can get yourself up to the top of the scout leaderboard by, putting in good reports. And if those players improve their value, then your scout rating will improve. And then you start maybe getting noticed by other people that are using the platform, and you can follow scouts if you like them. And then us as the scout team, if we can look at your scout reports and maybe take an interest there. So there is, other things to do rather than just playing for money. We're happy to go up against you in terms of money as well, but there's something for everybody on there, in my opinion.
Yeah. So I was just looking at it and thinking, I think I could see myself getting quite addicted to this.
I think obviously Football Manager fans will enjoy it. Like, I think a lot of people use Football Manager as kind of a scouting tool, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that, particularly because they're using information that their scouts are giving them. So as long as their scouts are good, then they're getting decent information. So,
well, it looks like you've earned your money by the looks of this comment, anyway.
Thanks, Alex. Yeah, appreciate that. And if people are wondering like what's in it for us, like how do we make money out of this? Well, hopefully, by being kind of more switched on and better than most of the people. I mean, Jack, you'll understand this coming from the bookmaking industry. Yeah. But there's a 5% commission on all sales. So as long as we can keep within that 5% for as many players as we possibly can do, then hopefully, for me, because it's part of my job, I get to stay in the job for a little while yet.
Yeah.
So if anyone out there is thinking that we're trying to crook people, that's completely not the case. It's kind of just you guys against us, and it's not in our interest to not be the right price. And Jack, again, you'll know this from trading. Like, if we have made a mistake in the first place and loads of people are piling in on, any player that's on the platform, then we do reserve the right to be able to adjust that price accordingly. But that means that all the people that have bought him have got a really good price on him. So they can either just sell straight away for a profit, or they can hold on to them and see their profits increase over time. So it's not a case of manipulation, and it's not. And this is the problem with Football Index. And I don't know if either of you guys have been on Football Index.
No, I was. It was one of the things I was thinking about trying, and I never got into. I just popped up on my screen. Another one that I picked is Robin Gosens at Atlanta, and they've just gone 1-0 down at home to Midtjylland.
Yeah, Robin Gosens is very this is a good thing about it as well. It is kind of worldwide. So what I was saying about Football Index is that there seems to have been a big problem with Football Index over the last few months, and there's been a lot of discontent on there. And my portfolio has massively reduced in value because of things that I don't understand, because of market forces, because people don't want to buy your players, they just want to sell. So it's a lot like the stock market in that way, and some people enjoy that part of it. And it's to do with the media and the exposure. Like Rashford's price went through the roof during the summer because he was in the papers all the time. Nothing to do with the football.
Hmm.
Not saying that Rashford doesn't deserve to be a highly valued player, because he does, but the 5 yards prices are exactly reflective of what we think they're going to achieve on the pitch, and they will only really change markedly because of things that happen on the pitch. And no one can argue that Diogo Jota isn't a more valuable player now than he was at the start of the season. I don't think.
Yeah, he is a good example for certain. One thing that got announced earlier today and might have a bit of an effect. There's new signing rules for the post-Brexit going forward.
Bloody Brexit raised its head again.
Here we go again.
It is roughly what people were expecting it to be. But there is no foreign players can sign until they're 18. Premier League clubs are limited to signing 3 overseas under-21 players per window. But EFL clubs can sign as many overseas under-21s as they want, so long as they meet the points threshold, which gets them a governing body endorsement. So it's basically how it's worked for non-EU players the whole time, but it's going to be based on club appearances, international appearances, youth appearances, things like that. They haven't released the exact specifics of what everything is worth point-wise yet. But what sort of effect do you see this happening? I mean, it's nice to be back in the Premier League where, but we might be in for that world-class 18-year-old, which we couldn't have said for the last few years. I think it's interesting.
Yeah, do you want
I was just going to let whichever one of you jump in, to be honest.
Yeah, honestly, it's one of those things where I do try and look at the bigger picture still. As much as I've kind of joked about us being out of the Championship and not having to care about the Football League anymore, when things like Project Bigger Picture got announced, I do like to think of the big picture of football on the whole. And, there is the concern that you are still going to get, the big six sort of pillaging the young players of the Football League even more. And then that you're going to see a lot of players bombed out at 18, 19 once these foreign players can come in. I think that's my biggest concern about it.
My concern when I first read it was teams such as Man City that have got various feeder clubs through Europe, and I think that's going to get bigger. I think everyone's going to have them. I think that it's just going to be, if you've got a club in Belgium, if you see a 16-year-old, they're signing them and you get them when they're 18. I think there will just be a workaround. But hopefully, the one good thing out of this is it should maybe give some domestic players a chance to at least have that first go at proving themselves that a lot of them never even get. So hopefully, whether it's the League Cup second round and they go, right, we're going to rotate the team, at least when we pick all these 17-year-old kids, it'll be a load of domestic 17-year-old kids. And if 1 or 2 of them play well, maybe they can get themselves out there.
I think what it's going to end up meaning is that, I suppose, if you are signing someone from outside the UK, then they're going to be elite, or they're going to have a good chance to be elite players. So that, like I say, you can then build around them with the younger homegrown talent. I mean, I've not listened to your podcast long enough to know what happened during the Brexit times, but I'm obviously fully against Brexit as a concept and freedom of movement and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, dear, don't be bringing your opinions on air like that.
So
you're going to be making 1s or 2s of people mad.
Yeah. We've done so well to hide them.
I'm happy to just throw a bomb in and run. Is what I'd like to do. But freedom of movement of football players is one thing that maybe people didn't consider when obviously all this was going on, and I think this does matter to a lot of people who their clubs are signing, and a lot of people who may have voted Brexit may not have thought long enough down the line that this was inevitable, and therefore I mean, I worry for a lot of scouts as well. That obviously European scouts and a part of big scouting teams that might get cut as a result of this, and so it's people's livelihoods then, and especially people who are in similar roles to myself.
Yeah, well,
So
that's why I thought I'm definitely leaving this for when you're on, because obviously that's the field you're in. That's what you're trying to do.
what confuses me is that a lot of clubs have seemed to have expanded their European operation very recently. Blackburn being one of them. Obviously, a lot of our signings this summer have come from Europe, and maybe that was just wise to get them in there because they knew what was going to happen. But it's going to be difficult now to understand how a lot of EFL clubs are going to be able to bring in talent from Europe that doesn't fit into this criteria. And I know there are exemptions that you can build cases to bring in players, and but it costs £5,000 to get it in front of anybody. So you got to build a very good case to be able to be signing someone who doesn't automatically kind of fit the criteria. I'm sure, as you say, a lot of people will have workarounds. Club networks, you've mentioned it already, are going to be, getting bigger and bigger. I think a lot of clubs will have to look into that. I don't know if Leeds are looking into doing something similar, but if they aren't, then they should be, because they do have a good brand and obviously an international kind of board at the top that they can look into different countries surely and kind of start to build that themselves. I think that'd be a wise move.
We did already sort of try.
That cultural Leonessa team is going to be fantastic in a couple of years.
Yeah, someone tells me we might need a stronger one than that if we're going to do it. But no, it's an interesting one. One thing I did wonder is it? Do you think it could have, going back to 5 yards, if you have a young talented player, but who isn't, but say they're Spanish, so it's a strong national team, so it's going to be hard to break in.
Mm-hmm.
This could massively affect their potential destinations for a move if they're going to move up the football pyramid. So I just wonder if it's going to, even if it'd be a small one, I wonder if it'll have an effect on pricing. It's a long-term thing, but obviously the highest profile league is the Premier League, and it could cut some players off from it.
Yeah, which may be a benefit to those other leagues, and you may find those leagues getting stronger, remaining stronger against the Premier League. Obviously, they'll still get the TV revenue at the moment, the Premier League, but if the quality of players changes, then the TV revenue is probably going to change as well, because people are going to watch the best players. It definitely will affect it. And you have to remember that we're trying to map out a whole career. So a player like Ansu Fati, for instance, who's only 18, only just 18 as well, that's a very, very long time for us to try and project what he's going to do. If he stayed at Barcelona, then fine, that's relatively easy to work out. But like you say, the chances of some players, maybe he's not a good example for this because he's obviously already I think he's had Spain caps already.
Yeah, so I think he's already scored as well.
He'd be eligible. So someone underneath him who's coming up through La Masia may not be eligible to be able to get a move to a Premier League academy or a Premier League established team. So it will have to be taken into account, and it will affect the players on there. One thing I forgot to mention earlier is that you can request any player that you want in the world. So we've had people requesting their mates.
Here was mine, and I've heard on Twitter this was the most asked for.
Yes,
Joe Gelhardt
is the most asked. He's been the most asked for player so far, which goes to show that the Leeds fan base are obviously getting involved in 5 yards, which is great to see.
Yeah.
But also possibly Wigan fans as well, and other people who just recognise him as a really good talent. And we've seen him playing for Leeds in the 23s, and he is a player, isn't he? So he's someone who's going to earn a lot of performance pay, I think, throughout his career. It's up to us to work out exactly how much and whether you agree or disagree with what we come up with. But he'll be going out on the platform on Thursday, ahead of the transfer window on Friday. So
are you allowed to give us his price?
I don't know his price at the moment. I'll be completely honest with you. I don't know his price. He's not one that I'm rating myself. We've got a scout team, like I say, and the way that we do it is when the requests come in, the players are divided out between us. So we've got someone else who will be taking care of Joe, and knowing the person that it is, he's going to have probably a pretty high opinion of him. So
Is
we'll
it
see
Josh
how
Hobbs?
that Sorry?
Is it Josh Hobbs?
I couldn't possibly say. But what I do know is that the person responsible knows him and likes him, and how that translates into a price will be for everyone to see on Thursday. And then if you want to buy part of Joe or 100% of Joe, then you can do that on Friday.
Yeah.
Or
Well,
if you want to submit Jack Robshaw as a possible person to go on 5 yards, you could do, but I'm not. I would probably take responsibility for pressing Jack up, and I'm not certain that the price will be that high.
hey,
Not with his legs these days. He can pick a pass around, but he's not got the legs on him anymore.
Passer of a football, just can't move at all.
He's like Matt Letizia, but less mobile. Now, Jack will know that the one player I'd love to see, and I dare say someone we probably won't see for a little while, but in Sporting Gijón's B team is my football manager boy, Pelayo Maria, who is a young left winger who, in my head, is still going to be the best thing since sliced bread.
You ever seen him play, Casey?
No, not a clue. I couldn't tell you.
His pixels are sensational.
Oh man, when I watch him as a 2D circle, he is brilliant.
Getting requested. Like there is a backlog at the moment because obviously it's been very popular, more popular than it was thought that it was going to be. So we are kind of working through them, but like I said, there's only a few of us on the scout team, so we're trying our best to get through them. You're guaranteed to get your first one that you put on within the month, so that's what we're kind of working towards anyway.
Yeah, just because we haven't been mentioning the website enough, it is 5yards.co.uk. www.5yards.co.uk. Does anyone use www anymore? Not because it gets you there whether you put it in.
Yeah, gets you there. 5yards.co.uk, and then, like I say, you just go through the registration. You don't have to put money in to start with if you don't want to. If you want to just get a feel for it, just go on the website, have a look through the tabs. Obviously, the little player icon at the top there will take you to all the players. You can filter them. There's like 450-ish going to be on there by Friday. There's already about 400 on there at the moment, but obviously that's just going to grow and grow as more people request players to put on there. And then we're obviously constantly monitoring the players that are on there for injuries, and that's what you've got to bear in mind as well. How many times are they going to be starting games? If they're injury prone, is that the sort of player that you want to be looking at putting in your squad? So there's lots of facets to it. Definitely go away and, if you are interested, look at it for a while before jumping in there. Or actually, what am I saying? Just jump in there and buy a load of players without thinking about it.
Yeah. Screw the food, because with that food money, you could be buying Erling Haaland.
To be honest, this is actually what I've heard people are spending their money on instead of feeding children. Is 5 yards.
I believe I read in the paper that was one of the things.
The hundreds of millions that we're creaming off the top of it will go towards child, food and poverty.
I am assuming, of course, because you're involved, because it's a conflict, you are not allowed to play. But if you could play, play, is there a certain player that you think right now is your best buy?
Is it Barry Douglas?
Barry Douglas has not made it onto the platform at the moment. There are 2 Blackburn Rovers players on there, Lewis Travis and Adam Armstrong. And Adam Armstrong actually might not be a bad shout because he's dominating the championship in terms of goal scoring at the moment. His XG is absolutely miles ahead of even Ivan Toney's. I'm just getting the platform up on my phone here. And so Adam Armstrong is one also that Ali Maxwell and George Alec highlighted, and they do a 5 yard show every Friday. It's only a short one, about 15 minutes. So definitely check that out for their tips in terms of who they think would be good value on the platform as well.
For those of you who remember from when we were in the championship, Ali Maxwell and George Ellick from the Not the Top 20 podcast, which is excellent. And I promised I was going to listen to every week, even though we got promoted, and it hasn't happened.
Unfortunately, I'm still stuck listening to them. Hopefully they're not watching this, but yeah, because Blackburn are still in there. But Tyrese Campbell's another, championship's quite a fertile ground for players who because there's a massive leap in performance pay between what you get in the Championship and what you get in the Premier League. I think it's only 30,000 per goal, assist, and win in the Championship, and it's 130,000 in the Premier League. So, if you've got a Championship player in your mind that you think can play for a potential Champions League team, possibly like Emiliano Buendia of Norwich, then he'd be quite an interesting investment for you. Not investment, someone to add to your squad. And again, there's lots in other leagues. If you buy someone who isn't in a performance pay league, let's think of an example.
I have one in mind.
Dominic Szoboszlai.
Exactly, Dominic Szoboszlai. That is exactly who it is. Because I'm thinking that probably in January he moves to one of the major leagues.
Yeah, and I'll let you into this one because I don't think any of my bosses are listening. I was responsible for Dominic, and I've factored that sort of thing in. So I've factored in moving into the Bundesliga, for instance, and you got quite a bit of performance pay for Bundesliga and for a Champions League team as well. So you got to think about that as well in terms of what if you think that he's going to move there, do we think he's going to move there, and have we factored that into his price already?
Because it's long term and he's only 20, I think he's just going to go up and up from what I've seen of him. So
what's he worth at the minute?
I have 5% at 2.8, so he must be what, 56
million. On the platform, he's earned 3.3 million in performance pay already this season. So he's earning it in the Champions League, and he's not even playing in a performance pay league. So imagine what he'll be like when he gets into a performance pay league. That'll just keep on going up.
Yeah, obviously we strayed away from Leeds on this, which I knew we would. Which is fine. We're doing another one.
Tried to keep it quite Leeds.
No, we're doing another one on Thursday and Friday before the Chelsea game, so it's fine for us to go off topic. It's easy, and now that we do it live, it doesn't matter as much. We can wander off topic as much as we want. But what I was going to say is the names I did pick out names, and then looked on, and Meslier and Poveda were already there, which were the two that I first thought of. But Leeds-wise, what you've seen, obviously there's not many on the platform now, but is there anyone in particular that you think is in the Leeds squad now and you think they're a player that's going to keep going upwards and you think will be a good buy? Like Phillips will probably move upwards, but he'd also be mega expensive.
Yeah, I'm still thinking about Phillips, as we've heard from our good friend Graven, is that he doesn't score goals, right? So
he doesn't get many assists either because he tends to.
Some people have complained about that with defenders and goalkeepers in particular, and obviously they aren't going to be as valuable as the forward players. But that kind of mirrors real life as well in a way, doesn't it? What they do have is longevity of career. So Calvin Phillips still has at least a decade. Where if you think he's going to be moving to a Champions League team, then definitely still buy him.
Playing in the Champions League for Leeds under Bielsa.
I mean, it's a possibility. Let's not completely rule it out. But yeah, it's interesting because you think of all the other, I'm a massive fan of Luke Ayling, but now he's 29, 30 now, is he? And
I think he's about to turn 30.
Yeah, and Stuart Dallas is just about in his 30s as well.
People leave in the comments or tweet us or whatever which Leeds players you think are the most.
Jamie Shackleton's going to be an interesting one if he can ever kind of get a decent run in the team.
There's a couple of those now as well, because I think Strike as someone breaking in. I still don't know how much he'll play, but Leif Davis might be an interesting one to keep an eye on as someone who's in and around the squad and Bielsa clearly likes.
Yeah, Leif Davis is one of the ones that I was going to submit actually, because I'm not sure that it's going to be at Leeds, but I think he's going to break through somewhere.
Yeah, and that's another interesting thing, right? So, think about Kyle Walker-Peters, for instance, who's 22 years old, sitting in third choice at Spurs. Everyone knew that he was a quality player; he just needed the chance to get it, and to be able to get that chance again in the Premier League with Southampton now, he's worth a lot more than he would have been if we'd have done this a couple of years ago when he was sitting in Spurs' under 23 side. So, like you say, those players that are hanging around the fringes of the Leeds squad might get the chances elsewhere, and in which case they probably would be worth investing in. Like I say, it's a long-term game. So
Oh, I've just thought of one more actually. This would be my last one. Jack Clark.
He's a very interesting one, isn't he?
Yeah.
Someone
had that nice start, and then, like you say, if this would have started 18 months ago, would have been someone that was very much on the up and up. And after his last loan spell, and I think as he made his Spurs debut in the Domino's, Pizza Hut, Papa John's, pizza trophy or whatever it is these days. I think
he actually did play a game in Europe.
Oh, nice.
He did make his debut, but he'd been there about 17 months by the time it happened.
And that's a word of caution, isn't it? And that's one of the reasons why I guess platforms like this can be successful for the people who own it, is that if we'd have given you Jack Clark at, I don't know, like 12 million, say, 2 seasons ago when he was looking a real prospect for you guys, people would have been snapping their hands off and buying him for their squads. And then is he ever going to reach that potential that would have been factored into his price then? Maybe, but at the moment, no.
Yeah. But no, I mean, as I say, I've already signed up and got involved, but I can see myself definitely staying involved with this. I think it's really interesting. Once again, that's 5yards.co.uk. We're coming up to an hour mark, so that's probably a decent place to call it. Oh God, I missed a piece of news. We got Crawley in the cup. No one cares.
Will we put out a second team? Probably.
We'll put out a second team. One of them will play well, and I'll buy him on 5 yards. Thanks very much for joining us, Andy Watson. On Twitter, he is at Andy Watson Sport. He's obviously doing the scouting thing with 5 yards, but he's also on Rovers Chat, which is it at Rovers_chat?
It is, yeah, at Rovers_chat, yeah. And I've got a video out at the moment with Stevie Grieve, who works for Dundee United. He's a really good tactician and coach. So the first half of that is just about a general chat about tactics and how to prepare teams for games. It's not Rovers specific. He then goes a bit Rovers specific in the second half, but you don't have to keep on watching at that point if you don't want to. Although it still would be of interest to a lot of football fans anyway. So.
Obviously, it is. We're a bit past the summer now, but if you go on Andy's Twitter, I dare say he's still got his big recruitment document that he put out.
Yeah, it's pinned. For
the summer, it's pinned at the top, which is, even though some of it's a bit out of time, like I believe Nat Phillips was one of them, and he's now playing because of all the injuries at Liverpool and stuff. But that's well worth your time. It's a fair bit of your time, but it's worth your time.
Yeah,
it was
17,000
really
words. So
that's longer than my dissertation was.
It's a hefty document, to be fair. Yeah, I don't know why I started doing it, but once I started, I couldn't stop. And thanks for that, Jack. Yeah, it's kind of, in a way, I suppose it's kind of helped me towards getting the job that I've got now. So
yeah,
thankful for that.
It's been great to see, to be honest, because I think, especially over the last couple of years, you've seen more people like yourselves, like Josh Hobbs doing stuff like this, and you see. There's a lot more outside of just Sky and BT doing work on recruitment on the tactical side of football. You see some of the stuff that Tifo Football put out as well, and there's some absolutely fantastic content there. So I love that sort of thing, and someone who's got to work in coaching, and I've been lucky enough to go to Ajax and kind of talk with that, have a presentation from them about recruitment and stuff like that. Seeing this sort of thing is absolutely fantastic, and I can't get enough of it.
You see, Casey, you mistimed it. You should have gone and looked at the Ajax Academy this summer and come back with a list of names for us.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say that the one lad I put my money on, he's at the Heracles at the moment, and I don't think he's going to kick on quite like I thought he would. But he absolutely tore up an under-14s game a few years back.
Ryan Gravenberch is an interesting one. He's on there from Ajax. He's one to keep an eye on if you've not heard of him.
So. Anyone who plays Football Manager.
I was going to say, I have signed him before. Yeah, he's I'd love to be able to go back now, because I even remember I text a few people with the team sheets of the youth team games I got to watch, and there were some few good names on there of players that I was like, oh, man, I watched children that are now playing in the Champions League.
Yeah,
Such a strange thing.
Well, thank you for having me on, guys. It's been a really good
No,
chat
it's
over
been really
the
good
hour
to have
now.
you on, and it's been good to speak to you because I haven't spotted you in ages.
I know you've grown some fluff since the last time I saw you, to be fair.
Mate, lockdown.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't care that much what I looked like before when I did go outside. It's got worse.
Still smashing the cans of energy drink.
Only when I've had no sleep. So, what, 40% of days? But no, thanks very much for coming on, Andy. I've really enjoyed having you on. We may we'll have you on again at some point. I don't know when it's logical, or when we get you in the cup.
Yeah, hopefully that'd be good. We've got Doncaster at home, so
you should be winning that.
Should be winning that. It's just another boring tie for Blackburn Rovers.
Yeah,
and then we'll draw Newcastle like we do every year.
Yeah. Well, that'll do us for episode 91 of the podcast. Obviously, we're at Mighty Whites Pod on Twitter, at mightywhitespodcast.com. The stuff that we write goes up on Through It All Together, which is at THIU, it's all LUFC, and throughitalltogether.sbnation.com. Obviously, we've mentioned Rovers Chat and at Andy Watson Sport on Twitter. Is there anywhere else that you need to plug while you're here?
No, I think we've said the words 5 yards enough for the bosses to be happy. So...
All right, cool. Well, you'll end up seeing it all over Twitter anyway. I know I have. Casey is writing all the same places I do and stuff like that. So unless he has anything to add, I think we're good.
No, other than I was on another show last night, and I was asked to plug everything, and I had absolutely no idea what to plug because you always do it. So when I was asked for the podcast Twitter handle, I don't know.
You set it up.
I know, right? But you always plug it. So when people ask me, I don't have a clue. If you're not there, mate, it turns out I actually don't know how to do this.
Yeah. Well, in that case, you can see us out.
I've been. I get put under the pressure here. So from everyone here at the Mighty Whites podcast, myself, KC, have a good one from Jack.
In a bit.
And from our guest, Andy.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, have a good one.